Coaches across continents monitoring and evaluation begins with a comprehensive needs analysis for every program and is ongoing throughout each 3-year partnership. We know what impacts are happening and how. We use an award-winning qualitative and quantitative methodology, which includes impact numbers, wiser evaluations, Salesforce data collection, and in-depth case studies. Our M&E influences our partnership decisions in these main areas. First and foremost, it helps us stay focused on the needs and goals of each partner program. Second, it informs our own continually evolving practices and processes. Monitoring and evaluation is essential to coaches across continents furthering our role as a global leader in sport for social impact and development.
Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, everybody. This is Brian Siskevitz with Coaches Across Continents, starting our April VLC. This one will be on monitoring and evaluation. And if you just give a moment or so, we'll get the new screen up, which will have this presentation. As we're waiting for that, just want to let you know this one will be slightly different than past ones. First, we're going to try and make this VLC a bit shorter. And secondly, we're going to do this where we hopefully can enable everyone's comments. So you can see on the right that you can actually see everyone else's comments. So right now, as we're getting everything set up, why don't everyone type in hello and let us know where you're joining from today. So we see a couple coming in. I know we've got David from Kenya and stuff. Yeah, it's good. All right, awesome. So we've got people in South America, Bangkok, South Africa, Nairobi. Fantastic. I'm actually having a little bit of trouble pulling up the presentation, and I don't know why. So if you just bear with me one moment or so. I'm actually going to ask Adam if he can help me out with trying to get the presentation up. Right now we're having trouble switching from the YouTube video over to the screen, but we'll start very, very shortly. So wonderful. As we get ready to start, this topic today will be on monitoring and evaluation. We're going to ask you a real quick question. Do you or does your organization do any monitoring and evaluation? So it should be a yes and no question coming up on your screen. I think we've got 3 or 4 people. Good. We're going to wait till quite a few people coming in. We've got people still reporting in from where they're coming in. North America, Congo, I see. South Sudan, fantastic. India. Awesome. So we've got a couple more seconds there to finish answering that one question. And let's see. And there are the results. So we've got a majority of everybody that is able to do monitoring and evaluation, about 85% of you. And hopefully everyone can see that. And again, we're still having slight problems. Hopefully, can you actually see me? What's up, Todd? See the screen presentation, or do you still see a video? And if this happens, we might actually have to start and then stop real quick, or give it a pause, because this is something that is new for us. That is. There we go. Fixed it up. Good. So today we're going to be working on some monitoring and evaluation. First couple of things. I'm Brian Siskevitz, Chief Executive with Coaches Across Continents, And joining me today will be Adam Burgess. And hopefully now everyone can see the presentation. Looks like we've gotten everything fixed. Hello, John. I think you're coming in from Uganda. Fantastic. And so, as I mentioned, today we're going to do this slightly differently. It's going to be only about 15 minutes long, and we are going to have you guys be able to type in the right. So as I'm talking the whole time, if you have any questions at any time, just fire them in the text box, and Adam will try and answer them in real time. The text box is on the bottom right, and then as you head through, if you have any questions, the bottom left, you can open up full screen. You can see who the other participants are by clicking on the people icon on the sort of the right-hand side. And then you can also see anytime Adam types in, it'll come back from coaches across continents. So we'll ask Adam every now and then to type in some stuff in the text box as well and to answer any questions. And please make sure that your volume is turned up and good, but your microphone is off. And then if you have any questions, also you can use some of the icons which will pop up on the bottom left to give thumbs up, to ask questions, smiley faces, and whatnot. So first off, what is monitoring and evaluation? Monitoring and evaluation, very, very simply, is first systematic and routine collection of information from participants, and then taking that information that you learn and then trying to figure out what is happening, to basically look for trends, to look for pathways, to try and see is what's happening on field, is it working? And it is essential for just about any single program. In terms of sport for development, it is a little bit tricky. It is difficult in sport for development using M&E because a lot of the impacts that we see aren't necessarily hard impacts. There are a lot of social impacts, psychological changes that occur because of sport and because of sport for development. But it's just because it's a little bit difficult doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. It's something that I think is very vital. So my question now for you, as all you guys have done a great job typing in the text box, is to ask you guys a question. Why should we do monitoring and evaluation in sport for development? I'd like if you guys can all answer a couple questions or just this question and say, what do you think is a big reason why it's important to do monitoring and evaluation? So if on the right-hand side on your text box, if a couple people can shoot me why you think it's important to do monitoring and evaluation. 85% of you said you did it. So first answer, perfect. Continuous improvement to prove that it works, to prove that what you're doing works. Fantastic. And yes, I do like your spelling, Todd. To capture the impact, good, right? And to see if we're making a change, fantastic. So I think you guys have hit on certainly the top one. And I think I see one there coming in from a couple people, discovering how to improve. And I think that's also crucial, learning that it's not just to see if we're having an impact, but then it recycles into what we want to do. It recycles into, is it working, and how can we improve our methodology, and then also not just what's working, but what's not working sometimes. And then I also see some people in there that are commenting about some accountability in terms of people, in terms of funders and donors, and that's very good. Also for future sustainability. So in terms of monitoring and evaluation, we need to do this, and we came up with 4 main points. And a lot of the information you'll see today is stuff that we have worked on at CAC for the last 9 years. It's also a lot of resources that's readily available. I've got a list at the end from groups such as Sport and Dev, professors at various universities, and I've got a list at the end. But really, we look to do M&E for a bunch of main reasons, and this is on a sport for dev wide scale. And you see right, the first one is to learn from your experiences and improve future practices and activities. So it's not just seeing does it work, but it's how can we take what we're seeing and improve on what we're doing. Or how can we take and see that something's not working and make changes so it's more effective? And then, as you see there, secondly, accountability, and that comes in with donors. And then third and fourth there, to allow people that are the participants, the beneficiaries of this program, to be involved. It's called a participatory monitoring and evaluation. And then finally, to take future decisions. So in terms of why Coaches Across Continents does monitoring and evaluation, the number one reason, and this is something we discuss each and every year, is our own internal usage, what we call a needs analysis, so that we can constantly try and improve our own programming and delivery. So I'd say that probably 80 to 90% is what we want to do with our programs. It's not for open publication necessarily. It's not for grants. It's not for accountability to funders. The number one thing is the reason we're involved with Sport for Development, as I imagine most everyone else is to be impactful and to be effective. And so we look at our monitoring and evaluation, and we're constantly asking ourselves, what can we do better? And I see that there in a couple of your messages, to review, to see what kind of improvement we can have, to see what we've planned, has that been achieved? So there's loads of different things, but everything is internal, not everything, excuse me, about 80 or 90% is internal to CAC, so that we can look for things in terms of how to get better. We can create feedback loops. And then if you look at sort of the fourth and fifth points down there, we also, from our monitoring and evaluation, can start to identify new problems that we didn't necessarily know exist, or new projects, new objectives, so that as time goes on, we can continue to grow and address new initiatives as they come forward. And then, of course, we've got, as Coaches Across Continents, we work with all of you across a wide range of settings and countries, and so to make sure that we have an understanding what's happening both on a local context, but also then on a national context and on a global context. Right? I'd say the second, third, and fourth we touched on briefly, and I know that a couple of you put in, we have to have accountability not just to ourselves and to you guys as our partner programs, but as well as funders and donors. So people that have made an investment in our program, just as yourself, want to show that what we're doing is having an impact. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to show that some things are working, and then there's some things that you've addressed that you can improve, as your monitoring and evaluation comes in. Part of the accountability is also sort of communication, both with other partners, with other donors, but also a bit of self-promotion, raising awareness on social media channels, on blogs, annual reviews, and such. And then finally, sustainability, which is really looking more to seek out future funding. And that's showing that through our monitoring and evaluation, we've got a proof of concept that works, and that would allow you to look for other grants, other funders, etc. So really there's two main parts of monitoring and evaluation, and these are qualitative and quantitative. And very simply put, quantitative is something that you can get a specific number for, and qualitative is gathering information about your program that's not in numerical form. And both quantitative and qualitative can be done either both in formal methods and formal capturing of the data, or it can be done sort of informally, and that can happen over sort of seeing information that gets put out, or having just casual conversations with people. But right now, if I want to ask you guys if you can type in some examples of what you think quantitative M&E would be. If you have what you might do that would qualify as quantitative, so that's gathering specific numbers for monitoring and evaluation. Okay, perfect. The number of beneficiaries reached. So that's counting the number of whether it's kids or participants in your program. Perfect. And that seems to be the first 3 or 4 comments coming through there. And then I think with that, percentage of assistance. Good. So also taking statistics from children, could be, measuring as they growth, physical indicators, cost per person perfect. So these are all things that are hard data. And now sort of same question, but we'll switch it to qualitative. So what are some examples of qualitative research? Some of the qualitative M&E that you might try and gather. Types of qualitative M&E might be a better thing. So good focus group discussions, one-on-ones, case studies, exactly. And the reason why I'm asking this, a lot of the purpose of this VLC is that we can start learning from each other. And you can see just on the right, so one aspect that we want to take out of this VLC, this webinar right now, is to give everyone some new ideas and some ideas of what other people within our network are doing and how they're able to capture ideas. So this is a short list that we came up with in terms of quantitative and qualitative. And I agree also, I think there's a comment coming in from Malawi about improved social and learning skills. But in terms of qualitative and quantitative, this is sort of what we came up with as a very general one. Quantitative, a lot of different impact numbers. That was, as you said, measurements of kids, number of attendance, but it also could be the number of sessions you have per week, the number of hours. We also take what would be called closed questionnaires, is something that we do sort of before and after our programming, which I think many of you might be aware of, and you might do this with the children within your program. And that would be what's either known as baseline endline questions or before and after questions that you ask a set of questions, typically yes or no questions, or on a scale of 1 to 5 prior to some programming. And after a week or 3 weeks or 3 months or 6 months, you revisit and ask those same questions. And by having the change in yeses and nos, you can actually get some quantitative data on what they have or have not learned over the course of your programming. And then some examples of qualitative would be open-ended questions, which are short answer essay questions, which allow the participants to really sort of expand on some of their beliefs and thoughts. One word I used slightly earlier was participatory, and your M&E definitely should be taking into account everyone that's involved within a program. So it's not just the opinion of the person that's in charge, but it's also trying to get opinions and feedback from the participants, from the practitioners, from the people that are organizing everything. So it really should try and encapsulate just about everybody that's involved. Another thing that's also coming out is what's known as creative M&E, and this is doing some things that might not fit in some of the traditional things. So for example, video documenting, video blogs, photo monitoring, where you can learn from various social media, for example, which then add to all the different types. Next quick question. Who thinks, what is sort of a better way to go, quantitative or qualitative? If you had to choose one or the other, would it be quantitative or qualitative in terms of do? You guys are too smart for me this morning. It's early morning here in California, and it is a bit of a trick question. And I like it that you guys are looking at definitely both. And as you can see coming up on the screen, I like that almost everyone coming in is saying a balance or both. And I would agree with you 100%. There is no perfect one type of monitoring and evaluation. But really, if you can include multiple types, and that's something that we do, and it'll be a collection to measure the impact of your program, where you're taking in both practitioners, both participants, but you have a combination of some quantitative data, you've got some combination of qualitative data, and then one of the reasons I really like being able to do things with video and with pictures is because the brain thinks in a visual medium. So you can take the quantitative data and you're able to put it into pie charts, into graph form. You're able to start tracking trends, but then likewise with qualitative data, you can also start putting stuff together with a visual presentation, which can often be very, very powerful. I think we've all seen the power of some short videos as opposed to just reading words on a screen, which is why we tried to start this with a little bit of a video. So both, right? To give you an idea of what we use, and this is certainly not what you guys should necessarily be doing, but we've come up over the last 9 years, and this is through a lot of work by our monitoring and evaluation team, but this is what works for coaches across continents. And Theodore, I think you're 100% right. We'll get back to that in a moment, or maybe Adam can directly answer that comment or share that with everybody. But over the last 9 years, we've tried to do where we collect direct impact numbers, such as the number of coaches we reach and the number of children that they directly impact. We've developed a system of questions, which we've devised into what we call a wiser evaluation, which is a series of open-ended questions and observations from our trainings. We take closed questionnaires with participants. We do interviews and case studies. We do blogs on both our YouTube channel and on our website. And then we're always sort of taking both formal and informal collection of data. So even just speaking, I know some of our staff tend to speak with somebody just about every single month. So we're always trying to learn what's happening next and what's happening with their program. And again, this is 90% of the time for internal usage, where then we can say, is what we're doing and is our partnership working, and how can we then improve for future years? As you know, with our 3-year partnership, we want to continue to grow each and every year. We want to try and make everything better with each one of our partners. So as I switch there, it's important. I mentioned that what we do might not be right for you, but what is important is everyone is able to design your own M&E that allows you to continue to improve and also measure your outcomes. This is just sort of a summing up. And I see, Adam, a few things are coming in on the right, if you can try and answer and stuff. It's important to use, as we just said, both qualitative and quantitative. And then, as I mentioned, we don't have monitoring and evaluation as strictly a formal process. We do have some formal things like our baseline, end-line, closed questionnaires, but we also, just in casual conversation and observation, are able to learn what each one of you guys are doing and the impacts that you're having. And then finally, we do it to measure what is actually happening, what impact is our program having, and then specifically, how can we get better, what isn't working. Point number sort of 5 there, I want to talk about a little bit more, and every program is a bit different. It's one of the challenges around the world with Sport for Development is some groups might be working on reducing HIV rates, other groups might be working on employability or school retention, other groups might have a different sort of indicator that they're specifically looking to do, or a wide range. And what we think is best is if you can sort of decide on a few indicators. You don't really want to bombard and try and ask 500 different questions to see what might be happening. But if your programming is focusing on, say, for example, health and wellness, a lot of your indicators might be tied in with health and wellness, about getting height and weight data, or getting HIV rates or unwanted pregnancy rates. And then you've also got some soft outcomes. So a hard outcome is something that's quantifiable. You can actually get exact statistics. And then soft outcomes are a bit more intangible, like was there a change of attitude? Was there a change of confidence, where you can't put an exact percentage or number on that? Whereas school attendance, you could say specifically how many kids made X number of days of school, or you can figure out which kid made exactly how many days of school. So that's the difference between hard and soft outcomes. But for each program, you should really look at what indicators are important and what is the objective of the program you're running, whether it's English literacy or et cetera. And then the second part of that is, as you decide on that, is also to allow for the discovery of unanticipated impacts. And this is what we look for in at CAC a lot. We have a pretty decent idea that we know that if we're working on a specific topic, that we will see some change in that topic. But we also want to realize that there could be other outcomes that we didn't quite see coming. And I know that some of these you might have seen in our annual review, which is getting released today. But we've had examples where our program has expanded to different parts of a community, which we weren't anticipating. We've got some programming now that's being used with youth that have been in trouble with the law. We've got different programs where we've had different NGOs get spun off from each other, and these are things that on day one we could not have anticipated. And for you, it might be, you might be focused on health and wellness, and you might see a big change then in school participation, or you might see a big change in another aspect of their lives that you didn't quite see coming. And so with M&E, I think these are really great stories a lot of times to really showcase that what we do is a very encompassing thing. So just from working with a program on health and wellness, you might have quite a few more options, and that's where I think sort of your informal monitoring and evaluation comes in, and also using a lot of qualitative data, because that's when these sorts of resources come out. Sort of last slide or two before we open this up a lot to you guys talking a bit more. When should monitoring and evaluation start and stop? And this is always a little bit of a tough one, because hopefully it's going hand in hand with what you're doing. And that goes from the moment you start conceiving of a new program, whether you're implementing a year-long program or a 3-month focus. But the M&E should go hand in hand with, as you're developing and implementing a new project, that you need to start thinking about, well, how can we start to measure whether or not it's working? And then secondly, we think that the monitoring evaluation should always be evolving. I know that each and every year we try and make upgrades and improvements to our own internal processes, which then influence what we do on field and what we do with all our partners. One very good example of this is there were quite a few suggestions that if we could improve our technology, that might be able to help people. And as you can see by the number of people on this webinar, that's something we took into account. So this was actually a suggestion that came from a couple different people around the world, and said, oh, it'd be great if there was a way for everyone to learn from each other. And so we've managed to be able to add this VLC. And then, sort of constantly we're trying to review what's working, what's not in each project, so that we can improve our own delivery. And so monitoring and evaluation doesn't really ever have a start or a stop point. It begins as the seeds of a program start to come up with an idea, and then it might finish as that project does, but then you can start to take data you've got from one project and another project and see trends throughout your various programming. I mentioned that there was some key resources, and I do want to open this up as well to questions and answers. We've gone for about 20-25 minutes now, so if you guys have some questions, certainly feel free to type them in. I'll try and look down and address them, and Adam's also, I see, firing away some answers to various people. I mentioned there's a couple great toolkits. One here, and if you want to take a screenshot, you can do that on your toolbar on the bottom left, I believe. But there's a couple really good resources, and even if you just type in monitoring and evaluation for sport and development on a Google search, but there's quite a few things written by various well-respected professors, such as Professor Coalter, and then also Sport and Dev has collected this and actually has about 5 or 6 web pages devoted to this, and they get in a lot more in depth. And I also want to make sure I say thanks, because I'm just here presenting right now, but especially Nick and Dr. Gates and Soph have really developed our practices over the last 9 years. And we do have one last thing. No one's really seemed to come through with any questions yet, but we want to try and take something away from this a bit. And one idea we had for a fun little project or fun little thing was for everyone to be able to share what they're doing and the impact that they're having through Sport for Development. And so the easiest way is if you can just share something in the next 24 to 48 hours on Facebook, and if you can tag CAC, we will repost everything both on Twitter and Facebook, but showing the impact that sport and our partnership or your work in your community is having on the community. It could be a quote, a statistic, an interview, a video blog. There's really no restrictions on it, but it really, I think, would give us a chance to try and come together as a global community and start showing the impact that sport and dev is having, both on a local level, but then also on a big global scale. And sort of the guiding thing is what has changed in your community since working with sport and dev. So to answer, I know that we just got an email from John. Yes, we could do that. If you've sent something in the last week or so, we can certainly use that. But if you haven't, if you just want to share something on your own Facebook or Twitter and tag us, we can certainly do that. And I think that is just about it for what I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully give everyone a good overview. The second thing is hopefully gave some people some ideas about ways you can improve your monitoring and evaluation. It sounds like a large percentage of you, 85% according to the first poll, so that's a monitoring and evaluation right there, are using M&E, but gives you some ideas of other ways you can improve your internal monitoring and evaluation to help improve your programming, whether that's adding closed questionnaires or informal surveys or case studies, so you can learn what's happening and then compare it with what are your aims and objectives. So, and I see Marcus, thanks for the answer. I saw that Marcus is actually on our staff as well, joining in from Africa right now, and talking about child protection. I know that came up. So yeah, feel free, guys, if you guys have any questions or comments, type them in. And I think that Peter is sum it up. I think Juan's asked a question there in terms of YARPIT. So a few more questions. And then I kind of, I'm a little bit lost. I'm nearly done. I'm done speaking, but I know I can see some great comments and stuff coming in, and I certainly don't want to cut anything short. So I think that that's good. So Mariano, I can actually answer that one directly. So the thing that we use at Coaches Across Continents is Salesforce data collection, and that allows us to do, once we input all the information, it is fairly intensive. We are able to then extrapolate reports, trends, data. So Salesforce for us is extremely good. First on a ton of quantitative information, and then secondly, we're also able to store in that system all of our various reports that we've saved in various forms. So whether we've written stuff down in Word documents and such, we're able to input that so that within a matter of seconds we can do a couple searches within Salesforce and then pull out all of the information that pertains to a particular program or a particular country or a particular group of participants. But I do see that there's quite a few different things that are coming through from South America. The CAP's coming through. I know that SurveyMonkey is one that I believe it's a Google that we've used once or twice. And I agree. There's a question, and this I think is also a very good one. Is M&E is not it's not necessarily easy, and especially with all of us being always pressed for time, whether it's because we're volunteers or overworked, or it's a second occupation. Time is always difficult for everybody. But to sort of reiterate in terms of why monitoring and evaluation is important, without some concept or without some aspect of M&E, it makes it very difficult to know is what we're implementing working. And I mentioned at the beginning, Nor, that, and I know you unfortunately joined us slightly late, but as I mentioned in the beginning, the number one reason we use it is internally to find out is what we're doing working, and if something's not working, how can we improve it? We put in so much time and effort with boys and girls on field and in the classroom that we want to make sure that that time and effort isn't being wasted. So it's really how can we make it better, and is what we're doing working. So without monitoring and evaluation, you're sort of flying in the dark. And then I would say second, third, and fourth again is to answer to past funders, to look for future funders in terms of sustainability, and to communicate that what we're doing is working. So I think this is just about it. It seems like most of the comments have wrapped up to a close, as Adam mentioned on the top, on the right-hand side there. This webinar, so if you want to review some of the comments, if you want to go back and look at things, will be available free of charge. It will be archived on EduDip, so you can go back and re-watch it or have any of your staff watch it. On behalf of myself and Adam, I do want to say thank you, as well as the rest of the Coaches Across Continents team. And Peter, yes, we can certainly help you out. Why don't you email me or email Coaches Across Continents, and I'll put that. I'm actually typing it in right now. We've got an email address for the VLC, so any questions with any specific one of our VLCs, whether it was January or up through now, just send an email to that email address, and we'll try and get back to you as quick as we can, usually in about 2 or 3 days maximum, to be able to share ideas. But again, this will be available for you, so we can help. So the 3 or 4 of you now that are doing it, please, yeah, perfect. We would love to give you some ideas or some places you can look, and then make a blog of M&E and CSA. Yeah, we can do that. I like all these ideas and comments coming in. So appreciate this very much, and I'll let a couple more comments come through because I don't want to cut anyone off. And then, yeah, if keep typing in these comments, and we will address all of them. Thank you. If you want to log off, you're more than welcome. But I'll leave this on for another minute or so any last comments can come through. And we definitely appreciate it. I love seeing everyone coming in from Southeast Asia and Africa, South America, the Americas. It's been fantastic having everyone on, and we will be in touch soon. So email questions anytime, and thank you very much, and have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thank you.